Hey guys, it's me, Holly Madison. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another story time. This one is about the most haunted doll in the world. Not Annabelle, not Chucky, Robert the doll. Robert the doll is still, I don't know if you'd call him alive, but he's well in Key West, Florida. You can go visit him. I haven't visited him yet. I would like to. But if you want to hear more about Robert the doll, please hit the like and subscribe button and stay tuned to the end because things get weird. So most of my information on Robert is from this book, which I will link below, Robert the Doll by David L. Sloan. He's the same guy who wrote the story of the Count von Cosel that I told a couple videos back. And he is Robert's, I don't think he owns Robert, but he's like Robert's caretaker now. So he's done a lot of really great research on Robert. So that's where I got most of the information, not all of it, but I will link the book down below if you want a scary little bedtime story for yourself. First thing I'm gonna say about Robert the doll that is kind of creepy is he's actually 3 feet tall. And to me, there's something kind of creepy about a doll that's 3 feet tall. I'm sitting on the floor right now and I'm just like, meh. So he was supposed to be the size of an actual child, kind of like a companion, I guess. He's covered in felt and he's stuffed with straw. Nobody knows exactly when he was manufactured, but it was definitely in the earlier part of the 20th century. And the date most commonly given as reference is 1904. So at the age of 4, a young boy named Robert Gene Otto, who lived in Key West, Florida, was gifted Robert the doll. Now, Robert the doll came dressed, as if an idea of a 3-foot haunted doll couldn't get any creepier. He was dressed as a clown initially. So that's what Robert the doll looked like. He had a striped clown outfit on. But eventually he would start wearing other outfits that were made to match little Robert Gene Otto's outfits. They had a matching sailor outfit, and this sailor outfit is what Robert is dressed in today. So Robert Gene Otto went by the name Gene, so he named his doll Robert after his first name, and they quickly became inseparable. His parents would hear Gene play with Robert in his room, and they would often hear what they thought were 2 different voices, and they just thought it was Gene playing. They would hear a lot of laughter coming from the room, and things started to get weird when anytime they would discover like a broken toy or a mess and ask Gene about it, he would always blame it on Robert. And now if any of you out there have kids, you'll realize that doesn't sound so strange. Kids scapegoat sometimes and, not that weird, but things get a little more odd with Robert. Got to the point where visitors to the Otto's beautiful Victorian Key West home would start to hear laughter coming from the doll or swear they could see the doll blink or hear footsteps coming from a room that the doll was in, things like that. Passers-by would say they saw Robert looking out one window and then moving to another. These stories got so common and concerning that eventually Gene's aunt said, you know what, I think there's a spirit in this doll. I think there's something bad connected to this doll. You need to put this doll away. So they put Robert in a box and put him in the attic. Well, that night, Gene's aunt died of a stroke. And she was an older woman, so, could have been natural causes, but it was just too much of a creepy coincidence to overlook. So Gene's parents decided they would take Robert back out of the box and let him go on playing with their son as usual. One might argue that if you were scared of this doll, maybe it wouldn't be a better solution to take him out of the box, but that's how the story goes. So eventually Gene grew up. He became an artist. He traveled to Paris to study. He got married. He lived in New York. And it wasn't until his mother fell ill in 1948 that he and his wife came back to Key West, to his childhood home, where Robert the doll still lived in the attic. When Gene's mother passed away, Gene and Anne inherited Gene's childhood home. So they moved in. Gene's wife gave up her successful career as a pianist to stay down there with him. And Gene quickly became connected with Robert the doll again. They became inseparable. Allegedly, Anne had to tell Gene to get Robert out of their bedroom. She didn't want to share a room with her husband and this 3-foot doll. So Jean finally took Robert back up to the attic, and that became the place where he had his own little chair. He'd look out the window. Jean would go visit him. And I don't know how true these stories are, but a lot of stories go around about Jean supposedly mistreating Anne and then blaming that on the doll. Now, I have dated some strange cats in my time, but so far nobody who blamed mistreating me on a doll. You guys, I cut my bangs. I just kind of like blunt cut them and I'm not feeling it. I feel like I have like a 90s Jonathan Taylor Thomas cut, but like longer. It's just not even blending. Anyway, that's besides the point. Back to Robert the doll. So when Jean, Robert's first owner, passed away, he passed away in 1974. Robert's original owner, Jean, passed away in 1974 with Robert by his side. When he passed away, his wife, Anne, moved back to Boston and she rented out their Victorian home. But she rented it out with the requirement that Robert be allowed to stay in the attic. Now, I have some rental properties and I know how hard it can be to find a good tenant sometimes. And usually tenants, like, they want everything in the house to look very like clean and generic, no weird light fixtures, no weird wallpaper. They want to be able to use all the space in the house, understandably. So I feel like as a landlord, you'd have to be pretty motivated to be like, okay, I'm going to rent this house out, but you have to keep the attic, you know, safe for my haunted doll. She must have strongly wanted in there, didn't want to mess with it. So while this house was being rented out, tons of stories were told about Robert the doll. People said they heard footsteps. They would go check on the doll and they would see the doll move and change positions. They'd hear giggling. One man even claimed to have been locked in the attic for a week by Robert, which I don't believe, because how would you survive? And wouldn't you like try and climb out a window or something? I don't know, but that story's out there. Someone even claimed to be convinced they got yellow fever from Robert the doll. Now, I've heard conflicting stories about what happened to Robert the doll after Anne decided to finally sell the house in Key West. I heard Anne herself gave the doll away, but I also heard that a family bought the house and Robert came with it. The family that bought the house had a 10-year-old daughter, and they would hear Robert in the attic giggling. They would hear footsteps. The daughter would claim to see Robert appear in different places in the house, and even claimed that Robert tried to kill her, that she woke up in the middle of the night and Robert was pressed up against her face. And these are claims that, according to my sources, that woman, who's now an adult, still holds on to these claims. She still stands by what she says to this day. Finally, the parents decided to get rid of Robert when they awoke in the middle of the night to see Robert at the foot of their bed with a kitchen knife in his hand. That's crazy. I have heard that that family is the family that donated Robert the doll to the museum he's at now, but I also heard an alternate version of the story where Anne gave the doll to someone who then gave it to someone else who then donated it to the museum. That woman's name was Myrtle Reuter, and supposedly she died less than 3 months after giving Robert the doll away. Robert the doll can now be found at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West. This is an old military fort, supposedly very haunted, and this is where Robert lives. He's kept on display in a glass case, and all around him are letters from hundreds of people begging his forgiveness, because supposedly if you approach Robert in a disrespectful way, or he doesn't approve of the way, you know, you're taking pictures or using his likeness, he can get very upset. So he's surrounded by tons of letters asking for his forgiveness. People claim to have lost jobs, they got in accidents, they got sick, family members got sick. All kinds of unfortunate events are linked to Robert the doll. People always report batteries in their cameras or their phones dying when they try to take pictures of Robert. I've also heard stories of people shooting on film, and when they get their pictures developed, everything is black except for pictures of Robert the doll. All their other pictures are completely gone. Today, Robert's former home, the Victorian house that Jean Otto grew up in, is a bed and breakfast called the Artist House. It's called the Artist House because Jean Otto was an artist. And supposedly there have been many, many sightings of a woman in white all around the property. things have moved, weird sounds have happened, so it's still supposed to be very active. And all these stories beg the question, why is Robert haunted? What is attached to him? What could it be? And the main legend surrounding Robert is that the first story I heard about Robert said that Robert was given to him by a servant, and the servant was into voodoo and Santeria and attached a spirit to Robert the doll, who then would continue to wreak havoc. But according to this book, the author did a lot of research, and it turns out Robert was manufactured by a German company in the early 1900s. And Jean's family, the Otto family, was of German descent. In fact, I think it was Jean's grandparents who had immigrated to the United States from Germany. And there is record of Jean's mother going back to Germany to visit in 1904. And the author draws the conclusion that it would make sense that she came back with this big expensive doll, because Robert the doll was kind of a luxury item back in the day. The company that made Robert the doll is the same company that invented the teddy bear, which seems kind of funny to me because a teddy bear seems like such a generic thing. It seems weird to me that one person invented a teddy bear. It just seems like something that's so generic, it's been around forever. But the teddy bear was actually invented by one particular woman in Germany, and the same company that made Robert the doll manufactured the teddy bear. Some of you might know that the teddy bear became popular in the early 1900s and was called a teddy bear, named after President Theodore Roosevelt. The only reason I know that is because I had Samantha Parkington, the American Girl doll, growing up. And if any of you guys did, you probably know that story too. Okay, my dog is like freaking out over by the window, so I'm gonna go check out what that is because that's a little unusual. What's out there, Rascal? Okay, that was weird. For the past couple of days, Rascal is a really good guard dog. He always alerts me when there's a person around. I have had paranormal activity in this house. He doesn't react to it. He's back at the window again and there's nobody out there. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I was told by a psychic that I really trust that Rascal, who hasn't reacted to paranormal activity before, I'm only supposed to be concerned if he starts reacting to it, because then it means it's like a bad energy. It's probably nothing. I don't know what he's reacting to though. He usually doesn't do this. There's nothing out the window. Okay, what were we talking about? Robert the doll. So that story makes a lot of sense. It sounds like the most logical thing, that his mom went to Germany, bought this luxury item and brought it back to him. But there's other rumors going around about the Otto family. Jean's father, Mr. Otto, had a longtime servant who was from the Bahamas, and he had a wife that some people think Mr. Otto had an affair with that servant's wife. There are reasons for this. It's all laid out in the book. And some people think that Mr. Otto might have fathered a child with the servant's wife, and she was pregnant and lost a child between 1900 and 1910. So there's some speculation that the spirit attached to Robert the doll could be the spirit of that child. There's speculation that maybe that woman was angry with Mr. Otto and maybe put some kind of voodoo over the doll and maybe attach some sort of spirit to it. I might be putting myself at risk by making this video because at the end of this book, the author writes about how when he was writing this book, like all his equipment crashed, he lost 4 hard drives, all these things happened because I guess Robert is quite finicky about his image. So I hope Robert approves of this video, and let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? Why do you think Robert the doll is haunted? Do you think he's haunted? And let me know what kind of video you'd like to see next. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.